My name is Rachel Cowan. I'm a systems change advocate at Stavros Center for Independent Living. Today I wanted to go over this document. It is guidelines from our Attorney General, Andrea Campbell, in the state of Massachusetts, of knowing your rights when it comes to ICE enforcement. This document is called Know Your Rights, ICE Enforcement, a guide for immigrants, families, and communities.
There are two different kinds of warrants you might see in an ICE encounter. One of them is this. It's a warrant of removal. This only has to be signed, it says here, signature of immigration officer, so signed by the ICE agent themselves. And this allows them to take people from a public space, such as a waiting room or on the street. This is a real arrest warrant. So this is a judicial warrant. You'll see that it says United States District Court up top. It says arrest warrant here in the middle. And on the bottom, it says issuing officer signature, and there should be a judge's signature there. This is a judicial warrant, and that allows them to take people from a private space, so inside an office, inside a home. If ICE does not have one of these judicial real warrants, they don't have permission to come into your home unless you let them. So you can ask, if somebody knocks at your door, can I see the warrant? Ask them to pass it under the door. If it's one of these, you don't have to open the door for them. If it's an official arrest warrant, you do. So that goes for public and private spaces as well in an office. If they only have a warrant of deportation or a warrant of removal, they don't have permission to come in past the front office unless you give them permission. But if they have a real arrest warrant, they do have permission to come in.
One of the most important things to know about ICE is that if they have different rules when they're in a public space or if they're in a private space. If they're in a public space, they are allowed to take somebody into custody under any suspicion. However, if they're in a public space that includes a private part of an office, that includes your home, they need to have an arrest warrant signed by a judge. So people who are being arrested or detained have several rights. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to hire and speak with a lawyer. And you have the right to refuse to sign documents. If ICE says you need to sign this document, you can say no until you have spoken with your lawyer. And that's very important because you don't want to sign anything admitting to any kind of guilt. You don't want to sign anything agreeing to any kind of deportation. So bystanders have some different rights. They have the right to observe ICE officers and record them. And that's something I would encourage. If you see ICE enforcement happening, take out your phone, start recording. It's important that officers know that they are being witnessed, that their actions are being recorded. Bystanders also have the right to remain silent, and bystanders have the right to refuse entry unless they've got one of these arrest warrants with a real signature from a judge. It's very important to ask questions in an ICE encounter. So if you are being detained, you can ask, am I being detained? Am I under arrest? Do you have a warrant? Can I see it? Where are you taking me? What agency do you work for? Very important since we've been having reports of unmarked ICE officers. What are your names and badge numbers? And how can my family or lawyer contact you? These are all important questions that you can ask if you're being detained. Or if you're a bystander, you can ask, what are your names and badge numbers? Are they being detained? Where are you taking them? Do you have a warrant? Very important questions for bystanders to ask someone who's being detained. Do you have a lawyer I can call for you? Or do you have a family member I can call for you? If you can get one thing in, if someone is being hustled out by ICE, see if you can find out if they have a family member or a lawyer you can call for them. After an ICE arrest, people are taken to a local office as a bystander, it is important to record, but it's important to know that it is illegal to interfere with an ICE operation. So you're not allowed to push or otherwise physically touch an officer. Very important to know. You're not allowed to block officers, and you're not allowed to hide the person that ICE is trying to arrest. There are some limits on how much the police can cooperate with ICE. There's a court case called Lund versus Commonwealth, which is from 2017, where the Supreme Judicial Court ruled that state and local law enforcement officers have no legal authority to arrest, to detain, or hold an individual based solely on federal immigration detainer. So again, if they just have one of these warrants of removal or deportation, the local police cannot take you into custody. They need a real arrest warrant. And it's important to know that some cities and towns of Massachusetts, including Boston, Amherst, Cambridge, Newton, Northampton, Somerville, and others, have passed local laws that limit the amount that police officers are allowed to get involved in civil immigration enforcement. And they usually permit cooperation with federal authorities, but they don't allow participation in enforcement. So generally, you're not going to see police with ICE, and generally it is safe to talk to your local police officers if you're worried about ICE enforcement. We'll link below some resources for legal help if people are needing an attorney to represent themselves or a loved one in immigration proceedings. There's the American Immigration Lawyers Association, there's the National Immigration Project, there's the Department of Justice list of pro bono legal services, the Department of Justice's list of pro bono legal services. And there's also the Immigration Law Helps Directory of Nonprofit Legal Help. It's really important to know your rights. Everybody living in the United States, whether they are a citizen or not, has rights under the US Constitution. And this information comes from the Attorney General's office, which is a valid source. We'll send that link to you guys as well. There is a lot of misinformation floating around out there, so always check your source.
In the United States, regardless of your immigration status, these are rights that you have under the Constitution. It's important to know what your rights are so that you can make informed choices if you're ever in an ICE situation. In the United States,